Okay, great. So we might begin. So hello again, everybody. You're all very welcome to our first Lunch and Learn series of 2025. Today's event is being organised by the EU-CONEXUS Career Network. My name is Rebecca. I'm the Senior Project Officer for the Career Network. For those of you not familiar with the Career Network, I'll just very briefly summarise what we do. We focus on four main areas. Firstly, we help in the development of job and internship career services for students, and we do this through our online careers platform, 𝗕𝗏𝗘𝗫𝗀. Secondly, we're also involved in the implementation of job readiness training by organising online events for students. We also support staff members of EU-CONEXUS in career development, where we exchange ideas and best practice, so very much like our event today, to help provide the best supports possible to our EU-CONEXUS students. And finally, the Career Network is leading the planning and development of an EU-CONEXUS alumni network. But bringing things back to why we're here today, so we're very happy to be joined by Dr. Marina Nekić, who will provide valuable insights into the unique needs and preferences of Gen Z students, understanding how educators can foster a smooth transition to university and to help create a learning environment that's inclusive and supportive. Marina is an associate professor at the Department of Psychology at the University of Zadar. Just to note that today's event is being recorded. The recording will be shared afterwards. Marina has kindly offered to share her presentation slides, so we will do so afterwards. If you have any questions for Marina, please use the chat function. So Marina, thank you so much for joining us today, and I now hand over to you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Good afternoon, good day to all of you. I will talk about Gen Zs. I teach the psychology of adolescence, and this topic is familiar for me, and I think it's familiar for you too, who are working with the students and young co-workers. So before we start, I would like to give a note. Because when we talk about different generation, we always at risk to be judgmental. So before we start, I would like to just put a disclaimer alert that this lecture is not intended to develop any stereotypes about Gen Z or anything of the sort. The aim of this lecture is to foster better understanding so that we can collaborate, learn from one another, and support each other in a world that is constantly changing. So this lecture is divided in two main parts. The first part is who are they? Who are Gen Z? And the second part is going to be about Gen Z in higher education, what they need, and what are their expectations and the learning and working preferences. So let's dive in. But before we dive in and before I start to talk more about Gen Z, I always love to start with inspiring quotes, and this one from George Orwell is, let's say, somehow summarize the lecture. So, every generation imagines itself to be more intelligent than the one that went before it and wiser than the one that comes after it. So I think that we can, all of us here on Teams can, at least at some point in our career, thought something that George Orwell just said in this quote.
So, Marina, sorry to interrupt. Some people are not able to see your slides, so I think maybe I can see them, but maybe it's presenter mode. So what I might do is if I ask you to stop sharing, I have a copy of your slides, and I might see if I can share my screen and if that will work.
Okay.
Then maybe the audience can let us know if that's working. So thanks very much to those of you that spotted the.
I'm sorry for that, because we checked everything and everything went smoothly, but I'm sorry that other participants can't see that.
Don't worry. Okay. So we'll have to do the dreaded next slide. But yeah, so if people could let me know if actually, Bridget, can you unmute there? Can you let me know if people are seeing the screen or not? Just
yeah, I can see your slides there. They're a little small, but I don't know if you can make them a little bit bigger, but we can definitely see them now.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can go, Rebecca, to that slide after the George Orwell's quote.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So apologies, people, but we'll share the slides afterwards anyway. So hopefully you can listen along, even if you can't see them properly.
Okay. So the first thing that you need to do, if you want to, in chat, please, with one word, just answer the first question. What is your first thought about your teachers during your college years?
And Bridget, I might ask you to read out some of the comments there, if you don't mind. Just I can't see the screen because I'm sharing. So.
Yeah, so we have inspiring, boring, stiff, strict, not available, rote learning, hard to reach, strict again, knowledgeable, boring, theoretical, not available.
Okay.
Yeah, so a mix there, distant, no interest. So yeah.
Okay.
So a different age group, so not connected.
Okay. So what is your first thought about Gen Z? Of your students, if you have students or young colleagues that are in their 20s?
So we have challenging times for them, creative, short attention span, hard to get a response from, creative but don't like reading, annoying, students are not connected, self-orientated, not as communicative as previous cohorts, allergic to the phone, not connected and lonely.
Okay.
A lot going on in their lives, lots to manage. Not interested in studies, different, trying to find their own space and not sure about themselves, need some help. Lack of interest, bigger expectations, things need to be immediate, not interested in studies, needy.
Okay, I think we will grasp those thoughts that you put in the chat and wrap it up during the lecture. But because Rebecca has the PDF form, I would like, let's say, this is the quote, and my idea was to think about and guess what year or decade or century is this statement from, but you have in the right corner at the end of the slide the answer for this quote, but let's see what ancient Greeks thought about their youth, and we will see that there is no change at all, even though this statement is from the 8th century BC. I see no hope for the future of our people if they are dependent on frivolous youth of today, for certainly all youth are reckless beyond words. When I was young, we were taught to be discreet and respectful of elders, but the present youth are exceedingly disrespectful and impatient of restraint. So we see a lot of things that ancient Greeks thought about their youth, and I think we all can relate to this statement as well at some point. If we think that the only we have challenging generation of students, we will go to United States in the 19th century, and the professor at Davidson College described students in that time as indulged, petted, uncontrolled at home, with an undisciplined mind and uncultivated heart. At Harvard University, professors even debated whether to introduce unannounced examination to motivate students who could afford to waste their own time and their father's money. So we can see that how to connect with the students and what thoughts about students and new generation was during the time. I think nothing has changed. And when we talk about Generation Z, we have to emphasize that although not everyone born in a generational period shares the same values or experience, they do share a common context and shape their worldwide. So students from each generation possess specific and unique characteristics due to the circumstances they grow up. So we can see that each generation has its own characteristics that affect their perception of the world. So we will dive in and answer the questions: who are Gen Zs? They're born between 1995 and 1912, so we have them as our students and also as our core workers. They're shaped by rapid technological advancement, always on social media presence, economic instability, ever-growing global terrorism threats, and social justice movement. If we compare Gen Z with the millennials, we will see that millennials are digital natives, but Gen Z are digitally innate. So when you look to the main references regarding Gen Zs, you will find also the part that a lot of authors describe Gen Z as millennials on steroids. So they grew up with access to abundant information. Technology definitely shaped their learning experiences, communication styles, and their expectations regarding education. And we will grasp that during this lecture. Being online for them is not a distraction. Being online is not only the way to pass the time. It's truly how they believe they can connect to others and find out what is happening in the world. So we can testify, no matter are we Gen Z or millennials or are we Generation X, we can testify that the knowledge is accessible and everywhere at all times. They are used, not just we are used to quickly find the answers on Google, whether we are working or having a meal. Gen Z are constantly consuming information and entertainment, usually from different social media platforms, usually from YouTube videos and TikTok and other social media platforms, as we or our parents consuming information in magazines or televisions in the 19th or in 20th century. What is characteristic of Gen Z is that they will pursue on-demand or just-in-time learning solutions, like how-to YouTube tutorials. If they don't know something, they will click on YouTube and find a solution for that problem they have. They also seek employers that offer robust on-the-job and development training. So we have that some kind of shift in learning and working preferences. Also, their career aspiration is more in the frame of happiness and passion. Even at the expense of higher earnings, they tend to switch jobs more frequently, especially if they find their work not meaningful or if their work don't match with their values. So they appreciate living in the present, and they also like rapid reaction to everything and fast feedback. So they need feedback even if they're students, how they did something, some task or seminars or essay, and also they expect from their employers also to give them weekly feedback of how they are doing in the job. So their behavior are more prone to customize the rules and social norms. And now we have a little bit of statistics. How long would a person who are in Gen Z generation stay at first job? Gen Z anticipates working for an average at least 4 different companies throughout their career, and nearly 1/3 of them are willing to accept a pay reduction of up to 20% to join a company whose mission aligns closely with their personal values. But 17% of them usually think that they will quit their first job. So if you're an employer, if you don't want to your Gen Z employer to quit, at the end of this presentation, you will find some model how to support Gen Z co-workers and how to manage their work in your company. So 3 factors are very important for Gen Z students when they're choosing a college, and this is something that higher educational institution need to have in mind when they promoting their educational programs. So one thing which is very important is career preparation. Are those courses really are going to be meaningful, and should or are those courses will be enough for them to feel competent at in the work area? Are those courses interesting? And are the professors caring? And are they caring about their success? Gen Z in higher education, they require different teaching and learning strategies. They're more skeptical of higher education that maybe the older generation. They want proof that pursuing a degree will be worth in the long run. And I think that is the reason that we see decreased enrolled students in some humanistic disciplines, because they don't recognize how some discipline can be useful for them after they finish their 5-year study. So they're also less patient than previous generation. They don't look much to authority figures for information. They expect that their educators, professors are more in the role of connectors or facilitators, providing the context and challenging their assumptions. They prefer learning by doing. They want to apply what they learn to real situations, and they also like to observe before they attempt to do something by themselves. So that YouTube tutorials are very useful for them, and also they prefer to watch others to complete tasks and learn through any video content. Also, what is quite characteristics of Gen Z is 8 seconds filter. So if you want to engage them, you need to give them information that is immediate and engaging, so that information can grab attention in a few seconds. So it's then it's for teachers, it's easier if that information is to visuals or bold messages on some interactive elements. In that educational content, information also has to be concise, delivered very quickly and clearly, and also that content and that information need to be relevant and personalized. So in educational settings, starting lecture with compelling questions, using interactive activities, incorporating multimedia can be a strategy to grasp their attention at the beginning of the lecture. What they need career-focused educational programs. They desire to gain skill that can prepare them for the stable career. Sophisticated technology solution, so they need more videos and game-based learning. And also, I think before any generation, before Gen Z, mental health services is something that faculties and colleges need to obtain for Gen Zs, because they are more aware of psychological problems and they are more willing to work on their mental health, probably more than the others generation before. My main workplace is the Department of Psychology, but at some point I was working in Student Counseling Center, and during the years statistics really shows that our students are more willing to support their own mental health. And so any faculty, any high school educational institutes need to have this kind of support for students as well. So what is well known in main literature is that Gen Zs are growing up more slowly in some ways than the other generation, and colleges may have to help. To teach Gen Zs, flexibility is a key, and for that, I recommend individual and group work, as well as I mentioned earlier, technology and other forms of active learning. We have a lecture a month ago where Professor Caruso gives some examples how she implement social emotional learning in their courses. And pink time is also something that can be very beneficial for this generation. Learning preferences are in the framework of interpersonal learning, group projects, but before group projects, you have to give your students time for individual reflection before collaboration. So you have to give them time to think, to pair with a colleague and mutually share what a solution for some problem that you gave them as a task. Flipped learning model is also something that can be useful for this generation. What that means is that first encounter material on their own and then use class time to deepen their understanding. And during the class time, a lecturer is somehow facilitator and coordinator through exercises and discussion. So you don't have the classic lecture as we now have. So you will give your students some materials, they will go through that materials and then come to class and discuss about the topics that is in that week in that program. Utilize video-based learning. Even you as a teacher, you can record yourself or put some valuable links for your students. And interactive learning also is something that is useful for these students. If you have virtual reality simulations or 3D videos, can be very valuable content to incorporate in your lecture. So how does Gen Z learn? Mostly by doing, and then by seeing, reading course materials, and the last thing is by listening. Classroom lecture is the last thing that will help students to learn. So looking at these statistics, if we didn't change anything through our profession as a lecturer, obviously we need to do that. This is a statement from one student, and she said this. So in this statement, we can hear what Gen Z students need. So she said, we must be vocal as we have learned through experience that the institution in place do not necessarily have our backs. We understand the consequences of our actions, and even more, we understand that if we want change, we must be loud. We are inevitably connected whether we like it or not. Everyone we know has multiple identities, each one curated to fit a certain theme or aesthetic. We are more open about mental health and are therefore more empathetic and understanding. We grew up during the economic crisis of 2008. We know that everyone struggles to some extent and want an open dialogue rather than a don't ask, don't tell approach. So what educators think about Gen Zs? Educators think mostly that their students have weak exam results, so some educators reduce the criteria. They think their students are passive, not motivated, not interested. They have poor foundation from previous education. They are less present in the class. But before we start negatively think about Gen Z, we have to think about why is that so? If we didn't implement some of those learning preferences and learning strategies for our students, maybe that's the reason why they are passive, not motivated, or have weak exam results. So it's a two-way street. Unlike previous generation, Gen Z simply does not look, as I said before, to authority figures for information. And the gap between generations is often rooted in the debate over what constitutes the knowledge. Critical thinking and application as opposed to merely facts or superficial definition is something that has to be implemented. Also to break material down into short sequences, connect content with the real world experience, and if you have some tasks in your class, you have to ask for an end product, and that end product can be virtual presentation, some game, or some solution. So it doesn't have to be a written essay in maybe 5,000 words. What our students need from us as a teacher? They want professors who can carry the class, teachers who are open and who are approachable, teachers who have ability to explain complexities, who are easy to establish contact, who have transparent evaluation criteria, who apply their knowledge and professional experience, and teachers who can give a lot of real life examples. So this is one quote of also a Gen Z student. That student said that they want the professor to be a guide, but not just any guide. They want professors who are enthusiastic, involve students in their learning, understand them, and most of all, give feedback quickly on assignments. So, how to navigate? This is not something that we all can do easily. We as educators need to change and to be more creative, and we only can do that if we have a bridge between generations. So to navigate all these challenges, I will give you another inspiring quote. This author, if you don't know who is he, is author of children's book and is creator of the bear Winnie the Pooh. So I think this is a very funny and interesting quote, that life is not about how fast you run or how high you climb, but how well you bounce. And this is also a statement of one student from the United States. He said, "In my last year of high school, I came across a memorable quotation from Arthur Miller at my public library. He recalled his university experience as the testing ground for all my prejudice, my beliefs, and my ignorance. I took this as my motto for what I wanted to get out of college as well." And I think this quote is not just for the student, it's also for our academic and non-academic staff at our universities. The transition from high school to university can be really overwhelming for freshmen. And as one student said, just about everyone feels overwhelmed, lonely, or stupid, or unprepared for college at some point. Transition from high school to university is significant life change. It is time that is preparing students for adulthood. It is also maybe first time that that student moved from home, so that can be really demanding and demands a new level of independence, self-discipline, and responsibility. And we all can agree that academic environment is more complex than high school environment. Our students, they need to do tasks, write seminars, attend the class, but also they need to adjust to new environment. And that environment is not just academic, to be engaged in classroom activities, to learn for the exam. They also need to adjust socially and personally. So first year is quite demanding, and we need to be supportive, because the dropout is mostly during the first and the second year of the study. So self-management skills are vital, and some students do not come to university with those skills. So tutorials at the beginning of the semester can be very useful for them. They need more self-regulation skills, as time management, proactive help-seeking behavior, effective goal-setting strategies, and university really must facilitate the learning of the first year students and support these self-regulation skills, because as I said earlier, some students really do not have those skills, but they really need it because, as I said earlier, academic environment is quite complex. We also need, as educators, think about building essential skills for our students. Vital areas, as I said, is time management. And one of time management skills is Pomodoro technique. What is that skill is that we said we can say to our students they can learn our content for our course, like to read material for half an hour and have a break of 5 minutes, and then read material for half an hour and then have five minutes break. And also when we teach our students, we can give them some solution how to better go through materials and what is the best way to learn. We also need to teach them critical thinking, because the abundant information that are on one click away from us has a lot of valuable and also invaluable information. A lot of information are valid and not so valid. So we need to teach them how to find, is this source credible or not? And also, even though they are very skillful using digital technology, but some of them really need more support in communication skills, how to articulate ideas clearly and confidently. So we can help them here as well. So for us teachers in academic environment, change is inevitable, but for each of us, growth is optional. So what in the workplace managers think about Gen Z? We can look at these statistics and we can see that some percentage of managers think that it will be difficult to manage our Gen Zs, it will be difficult to train them, difficult to communicate with them, and will not work as hard as millennials. But if we look at this statistics, we can see that only 1/3 of these managers think like that. 2/3 think positively about Gen Z. To manage them better in the workplace, coaching them is the most important thing that some employer has to have. If you manage them through fear, this is usually reason for them to quit. And probably this is this is my observation. So this is just something that I can conclude regarding my observation, looking at different generations in the couple of decades. This new generation won't tolerate that you manage them through fear, but maybe millennials and maybe Gen X and baby boomers generation probably stayed at work and somehow suffer with really bosses who was really bullying them during their working career. So this new generation won't tolerate that, and I think that is something that we can learn from them, especially if we are from older generation. They also have a lot of insecurities, even though we think them sometimes as overly confident. They're really scared of not being good enough, especially about their first job. They worry about making wrong decisions, and they would love to have promotion, and they want that promotion to be fast. They won't wait. They really are prefer that their work has good work-life balance. So if they have to work beyond their working hours, you need to compensate, or they need to have some benefits. Maybe Generation X and the generation of baby boomers didn't even expect to have some kind of compensation of benefits. They just work because the boss said so. Those new generations also won't tolerate that as well. They also have a long-term dream to manage others at some point in their career. If you want to manage Gen Z, it's always a good framework to create open two-way communication, give feedback frequently, especially if you have apprentice who is Gen Z. They want feedback at least weekly. They also very competitive, and they have entrepreneurial tendencies. So because of those tendencies, they really appreciate employer who will coach them, who are willing to give them clear instruction how to progress in their career and what they need to do to get that promotion. As I said, never manage them through fear. Teach them human skills. I use the term from Simon Sinek. You can find a lot of lectures from them on YouTube, and he said that he doesn't like that term soft skills. He said those are human skills, and managers need to manage a new generation how to be more proficient in human skills, because a lot of Gen Z is a lack of confidence, and our lack of confidence in the background is usually shame. So to defend that shame in psychological manner is to give some mask of I know it all, some mask of arrogance. So before you judge your young co-worker, maybe you need to just get aware of that maybe some of them have a lack of confidence. And as I said earlier, effective coaching is something that can be very, very useful for them. And they usually put coaching on the first rank as something that is valuable in the workplace for them. So you can apply GROW model to go with them. What are their goals? What is reality of that goals? What are the options? How to manage those goals, and what they need to go forward with that goals. So we are at the end of this lecture, and another quote. As you can see, I love inspirational quotes, and I think this quote is for all of us, that smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. So new generation are probably give us a lot of hard work, but also that hard work can be something that bridge the generational gap between Generation Z and all those generations that are going to come to our university. So thank you all for attending this lecture. Now I'm open for your reflection, your questions, your experience.
Super, Marina. Thank you so much. Yeah, so apologies to the audience for the issues with the slides, but we'll circulate them afterwards. There's just an issue with Marina's camera, so you can't see her face, but you can hear her anyway, hopefully, which is great. Such a very insightful and very just there's a whole lot in there, Marina. It was very, very interesting, and I took some notes there. I'll let people put in some questions if they have them. But yeah, I mean the quote there at the beginning kind of made me smile a bit, and because I don't work directly with Gen Z students, but it was very interesting to hear the audience, who may be working directly, and kind of maybe the negative or the challenges that they face when working with Gen Z students or co-workers. But I think when you kind of delved into the statistics a little bit more, you can kind of see why the frustrations might be there, because, well, if you look at their learning style and, I suppose their questioning authority and just kind of how they learn and see the world, it kind of makes sense that those challenges would come up. That all youths are reckless. That kind of made me laugh then as well, because we all think that, it's funny.
Yeah. We were, what is important, that we were that youth at some point.
Absolutely. And I mean, some of us are still clinging on to that too, But yeah, I mean, like the fact that they have a strong social media presence and that they feel connected online, and you get some very interesting tips there as to how, if people, in the classroom or working with on a one-to-one or group level with Gen Z, I mean, it could be kind of some pressure there. Do you think, if they don't, they tend not to look to authority figures for information. So do you kind of see that as a challenge? I mean, it can be positive in one way, but that can be kind of a challenge for an educator. I was just wondering what your thoughts were there.
Yeah, I think when I was a student, we look at our professors as ultimate authority. And I think also that is problematic, and that was problematic. If we want them to develop critical thinking, I think they need to challenge their professors as well. So I think that I love students who ask questions, who give me the total opposite perspective on the topic that we are going on during the lecture. So I think that this also, when I look at my career as a lecturer, I can see that at the beginning I was really afraid, what if students ask me something that I don't know? And I think to be a better lecturer, I don't need to know everything. And that was really helpful for me to be more spontaneous and more open to students' questions and their comments. As I see in chat, some of participants ask for references or articles. I will send you, Rebecca, some of the main references that I used for this lecture. So instead of just a presentation, I give you the other valuable references as well. And there is a question about how to grow confidence in college students in their last year. Usually students, I will answer this question as a psychotherapist and counselor, because I worked in student counseling center for some time. And usually when I worked with students who are in the last year of college, they forget how many exams they passed, how many tasks they go through. They just tick that as, okay, I did that, but they didn't integrate all the effort they put in all those obligations, academic obligations they need to do to that last year of college. So I will probably ask them to remember what was how it was at the first semester when they enrolled in the college and how they feel right now. Do they feel, do they see and feel the path, what they went through and go through till this last year of college, and what they learn about themselves. And also usually they have colleagues who know them for 4 or 5 years, and I will maybe do some workshop with them. It won't have to be a long one, to pick a name from the basket of the papers with the names, and to give some positive feedback to their colleagues. So that can be also, you can be creative, whatever you want, you can do during your class. Usually when I have one of my courses is the last semester ever for students on the 5th year, and usually the last lecture is like that, just to remember how to write a letter for themselves at the first year, in first semester of their journey to college.
Very good. Yeah, it's a sort of a reflection, and like you said,
Yes.
during your lecture,
Yeah.
feedback is quite important to them.
Yes.
So you're kind of meeting that need that they had. Bridget, maybe you had a comment, and then there's one other question in the chat that we can go to.
Yeah, thanks, Rebecca. It was more so, I suppose, an observation. But Marina, you were saying that Gen Z would consider taking a pay cut for the right role.
Yes.
But then they want to be compensated or benefits for extra work they do. I suppose I work in engagement, and a lot of what I do is trying to get students to do extra work or consider taking on, an extra module in sustainability or a micro credential that could, further their education in a particular area. So it's on top of what they want, on top of their regular coursework. And I suppose I see the two a little bit at odds with each other. So I suppose I'm trying to maybe, understand, the dynamic between, how do you get students to do something that's extra that might not have monetary value, but will be of value in their educational journey in the longer term. So maybe when they're going for interview or something. So how do the two, I suppose, how do you try and work out a compromise that, that Gen Z can find appealing without there being a monetary value on it?
We can see a lot of polarities in Gen Z, a lot of opposites. So at some point they will value something that is personally valuable for them, and at some point they need some certification, some material benefit, or material in any kind. So I think to work with them in that manner is to get them to be more aware about their personal values. Or is this something that is valuable for you personally and professionally? And I think sometimes I can find myself that I give students some task, but don't explain why is this important and how this will be important for them. And I think if we give them that background, that can be helpful for them to do something beyond benefit or any kind of reinforcement than just internal motivation to do that because it's valuable for me.
Thanks a million. I found the workshop really, really interesting and definitely some really great tips. So thank you.
Yeah, I think it comes back to like meeting the, you know, the value proposition, like the benefit, what's in it for them, but kind of having an understanding that you're just trying to, well, like it kind of leads to the start of your lecture of how they learn what they value, and just trying to tap into that more and being conscious of our own bias because we're not of that generation. So we just think differently. And it's just trying to communicate that and understand that and have a bit of awareness, you know, and we're, like you said, you know, in the classroom, you're not going to know every answer to a question. You're human, you know, we're all human and we're all trying our best and trying to learn. That's probably a good situation to be in because it means that they're using their critical thinking and that they're engaging with the material, you know. We've time for maybe one final question, which is, you kind of spoke about it in your lecture, but maybe you want to elaborate a little bit more. What are the concrete steps that educators could take to get closer to Gen Z? You know, what steps could you advise the educators to take, how to motivate the students for change?
It's always when you have a new generation in the classroom, it's always a little bit anxious for educators as well, because it's easier for us to do our jobs if we have good connection with our students. So I think that we also need a lot of human skills as educators, soft skills. And I think that we need to share a little bit about what motivates us to do this lecture and what is interesting for us in what we are teaching them and how this can or is helpful for us as a, let's say, for the example, as me as a psychologist, how this can be helpful for that role that are educated themselves through 5 years of university programs. So I think we can also do that what our expectation and with concrete tasks. And probably in the beginning, it will be maybe easier for them if they can express their opinion, but anonymously. So you can use some application like Kahoot or Mentimeter during the lecture to know what they think about the topic, and maybe you can use the flip model for them to give some task and then have a spokesman who will talk for the group. I think those little strategies can be helpful for teachers to have more dynamic lecture and to connect with students.
Yeah, definitely.
And there are a lot of icebreakers that can be used in the first weeks of semesters, so that is also valuable.
Yeah, you mentioned Corinne Caruso in your presentation, and with the pink time and the social emotional learning. And we actually had Corinne present to us at one of the Lunch and Learn events. So if people missed that, that's a very good, nice link and may support some of the discussions here today. That's on the EU-CONEXUS YouTube page. We're consolidating all of those at the moment, so they'll be available on the website eventually, but we're just working on that at the moment. But yeah, Corinne gives some kind of practical tips like that to like icebreakers or self-reflection. Again, trying to understand where the students are coming from and trying to meet them at their level, you know.
And because I teach on different levels of the study, and what I learn as a teacher is that I don't know a lot about 𝗘𝗏 students, a lot of them work and study, a lot of them have some struggles. And I don't need to know all the personal stuff, but it's really helpful if we go beyond our social or professional roles, but always keep the professional boundaries, but also connect on the human level.
Absolutely, that's so important.
And Professor Caruso lecture was really inspirational, and I think those two lectures are really complementary.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that leads us nicely to conclude today's event. So I thank you very much to you, Marina, first of all and foremost. Very, very interesting presentation, and you can tell very much that you're passionate about the area as well, having worked in it for quite some time, which is fantastic. That really came through the presentation. I thank you very much to the audience for your participation. Apologies again about the errors with the slides, but we'll circulate them afterwards. And thank you to Bridget for your tech support as well, and for moderating some of the session as well. We'll have another event next month, so stay tuned, and we'll be in touch via email for the copy of the slides and so on. So thank you once again, and have a good rest of your day. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for having me, and have a good week.
All the best.
All the best.